All right. Are you starting the timer?
I am going to start the timer now.
But you need your tea.
I do. I wonder why.
Just go get your tea.
It's not even. I'm waiting for the kettle to whistle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was my.
I thought I just heard it whistle, and then I realized that was you making the sound. It was very accurate.
It wasn't even a whistle.
You had me fooled. Hang on, let me go see what my kettle situation is like.
Okay. While he's doing that, I'm going to grab my Lotus Way cards. And I'm going to draw a card for us. So here's my deck. These are my deck of cards. And he's grabbing tea. So I basically shuffle with my left hand. I set an intention.
Where are my headphones?
I cut the deck. Cutting the deck. And then...
It wasn't whistling because I didn't put the little thing down. That it was open. It was just steaming. The steam was just spilling out.
Okay, all right.
So
you didn't put the whistler.
No, I didn't put the whistler on.
I'm drawing us a card.
Oh.
While you were gone.
Who makes those cards?
Oh, of course. Okay, I'm telling you. Like you saw me just draw one at random.
Yes.
Nasturtium.
Set a timer for 45 minutes.
Okay, 45 minutes and counting.
Thank you. Okay, go.
Yes, nasturtium. Can you see it? It's the one that I drew on the 21-day stillness challenge. Spontaneity.
Yes. That's what that one is, spontaneity?
Yes. The message is to spice up your life. It says nasturtium comes to the rescue to spice things up. It enhances spontaneity and contentment, highlights our strengths, and helps us refine our unique way of being. So it magnifies joy and contentment, being in the right place at the right time, dissolves feeling plain, ordinary, unwanted, dissolves sorrow. Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Unwanted. Had a nice conversation with my therapist this week about how feeling wanted and desired is a very, very important value to me.
Yes, I can see that.
And then you go.
No, before you tell me more, do you have the opener?
What opener? Oh, to the podcast.
Like maybe we should start. Otherwise, this is going to be a lot of really randomness
looking thing and just talking about shit. Our opener. I do have it written down. I should know it by now. Do you? I feel like you have it right in front of you.
Well, I think you changed it up, and I haven't written down the changed up version.
Oh, I did. I've changed it since then, though.
Okay.
This entire thing is a work in progress. Let me find our media kit.
That's how we roll. We just show up.
I'm going to change the name of this podcast to Work in Progress 11. Media kit? Because that's where I wrote the thing that I read last time.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. Welcome to the True North Podcast. What did I say? Well, I'm reading it, but it says, Abby and Ryan have an ongoing conversation about personal development, emotional wellness, and how to take cues from our bodies, minds, and experiences to find opportunities to grow as human beings. We share our own journeys and coach each other towards wholeness and healing in hopes that our audience will be challenged to grow alongside us.
That's what I have written down.
I wrote a better one. There's a better one somewhere on one of these websites.
We'll find that.
Oh.
And we'll use it and...
Yeah. It's going to slightly change every time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it is.
Okay. Well, hello. Good morning.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Abby.
That was the rockiest start we've ever had.
It was. And we're not doing this in the same room.
No.
But we're here. We're still here. And I like this. So tell me more about your therapist.
So my therapist is great. Oh, well, I don't need... This is not how I wanted to start this. You are sneaky.
So I've been told.
I saw you sipping your coffee. So, talk about things that are not me, Ryan.
Yes.
Well, we just had a conversation about just
what you value.
What I value and how I didn't even realize this about myself. Like, I think I'm pretty self-aware in general. I do a lot of introspection.
Yes.
And somehow this managed to fly under the radar for just about my whole life. But feeling wanted, not being wanted, but feeling like I am wanted and desired is something that has just been a huge variable in my equation with regards to how I feel about any given circumstance, situation, relationship, event, version of myself, whatever. And so she kind of like made that observation. I was just rambling about life and what was on my heart and mind, and she's like, let me tell you a story. And then she like painted my whole life picture chapter by chapter according to what I had given her and filtered it through the lens of, here's what this thing made you feel about how wanted and desired you were by the people in your life. And of course then you internalize that, where first you decide how desired you think you are by other people. And then that immediately translates into how desirable you think you are as a person intrinsically, right? So then their behaviors become your story about yourself. And so she kind of like filtered my whole life story through that thing and explained, in this chunk of your life you felt wanted, in this chunk of your life you didn't, in this chunk you did, and what you're after and what you're holding on to is the things that make you feel a sense of belonging. And the things that you're running away from are the things that make you feel like you're not wanted anyway. Which is what blew my mind. Like when you were doing your 21-day stillness challenge, well, we're still doing it, but when you drew the card about attachment to outcomes, like that morning, I woke up feeling terrible because I didn't sleep, and I didn't sleep because I was just tossing and turning and thinking about certain outcomes that I either am really attached to and really want to see happen in my future, or certain outcomes that I'm really afraid of and want to not see happen in my future. And I was so wrapped up in like trying to figuring out how can I control my life to make sure that these outcomes land the way that I want them to. And then, of course, when you're faced with the fact that you're not in control of anything, all you have left is fear and anxiety. And so I just woke up a ball of stress and fear and worried that life's not going to pan out the way that I, in this moment, would like it to be. And I was totally not living in the moment. I was not in my body. I was all in the future. I was all in fear. I was all in worry. And then you draw this card that's like, let go of your attachment to outcomes. I was freaking out. Because of course.
Mind blown.
Yes, that's why I said my mind is already blown. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's in that group who's listening to this, that's what that was about.
Mm-hmm. How many times has something like this happened? You know, where you've expected something, you've wanted and desired something, and it didn't go your way, but it was along the same vein and it ended up being better than you expected.
Yes. Well, I mean, I try to even detach it from the better, because you don't even know if the things that you want are as good as you think they'll be. Mm-hmm. Like you expect it to be great because you're romanticizing the desirables and you're not being pragmatic about all the reasons why your desired outcome may not be so desired. You find that out after you get there and you're like, oh, this is still, it has its downfalls and its caveats I wasn't thinking about. Right? So
right.
You have one expectation about what it might be, and then you have another thing that it ends up being, and like I don't even know that you can compare the two. Because you still don't know really what life would have looked like if it had turned out exactly the way you wanted it to.
True.
So all you really have is what it is. Is it better? It doesn't matter. The fact is that it's where you landed.
I'm thinking.
I'm glad we're videoing this because now I don't have to narrate. Abby has her thinking face.
Yes, and apparently silence is awkward, so I'll just tell you I'm thinking.
I love when there's silence in this podcast.
Embrace the silence.
It feels so edgy to not have to fill the space.
Okay, so go back to, though, when you realize that you're not in control of anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that comes up for you is fear and anxiety.
In that moment, it did.
Yeah.
I mean,
more to that.
There's also some release that can come from that. Like some relief. Like, I if you can't control anything, then fuck it, stop trying. And then all the effort that you're putting into the thing, you can allocate elsewhere. Or you can rewire the way you think and say, okay, well, what am I in control of? And then you devote all your energy to that, and you stop being attached to things you can't control being what you want them to be, right? So, like, there is freedom there, but you still have to choose how you interact with that realization. It can be terrifying, especially if you are where I was that morning and that night before, where I was convinced that the only way for life to turn out the way I want is for me to make it happen. And if I don't make it happen, it's not going to. And I really, really, really want life to look a certain way. So therefore, I have to force it to be that. Right? So then if you're in that space, then the universe knocks on the door of your brain and it's like, by the way, you can't control anything. And then it's really scary because your only choice left to do is let go of the thing that you really, really want.
Right.
You
but
know?
By clinging on to it so tightly, it feels incredibly desperate too.
It is. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that you're not in control can produce a lot of anxiety, and it can also relieve a lot of anxiety, depending on how you relate to it.
Well, you're doing exactly what we've been talking about all along, is you're choosing to practice perception, ultimately, is you're choosing the perception of, yes, you may not have control, but this release of control is not necessarily a bad thing, or this non-attachment to the outcome does not mean that your life is going to fall apart.
Right.
Like, you're practicing, because we are hardwired to think like that's that lizard part of the brain that's like, no, but you need a job, you need an income, you've got your family to take care of. It's like you can get really caught up in that, so it's hard to not stay in that mindset and really try to. That's why it gets desperate sometimes. You're like, no, but this needs to happen. If I'm going to be able to take care of all of those things, it has to look like this. So my question is, I want to hear your thoughts on, I guess it's not a question, but I want to hear your thoughts on, what do you think then about goals?
So I'm trying to remember. I've had this question posed to me before, and I'm kind of like replaying my answer in my head to see if I still think it holds up. I feel like goals are a good thing to move you. And I won't even say move you forward, but they'll move you. Mm-hmm. Because you're working towards something. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, I think goals are a really useful tool. If you don't have direction, or you don't have clarity, or if you're stagnant, or just, you don't know what you want life to be, you just know that it needs to be different than what it is. Set a goal. But then having a goal creates a temptation to become attached to that goal, and then you're back in the other mind space where you're freaking out about not meeting your goal. Right,
which is exactly why I wanted to ask you this question, because I feel like so many people make goals, and I typically run away from goals for this very reason. Mm-hmm. and why I choose to set more intentions. And I do goals in terms of turtle steps. I see it more as you sort of have this long range idea of what you want. And you set your intention to get there. And then you make these turtle steps, or these very tiny steps, these tiny goals that basically just get you somewhere. But then there's no attachment to what the end looks like. You just know that you're slowly working your way there, and whatever works for that particular moment.
Right. I feel like goals are the most useful when you approach them as a direction rather than a destination.
RTL.
RTA?
RTA.
Read that again.
Read that again. Where did L come from?
RTL. What did I say? Oh, goals are most useful when they are approached as a direction rather than a destination.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a fine balance to walk.
That is a nugget. It is. It is.
So you go.
So I'm just in processing the information that you're giving me. Are you stuck on, like, have you made goals for what you want your life to look like? Like, are you getting caught up on your goals as far as, and because goals are measurable. So are you getting caught up like, well, this isn't happening, so I'm not meeting my measurable standards, so this is falling apart. Like, where are these thoughts starting from?
Well, you are really making me think today. I say that like it's a bad... How dare you?
I can't believe you're making me think.
I did not wake up today on our pre-scheduled recording day expecting to have to think. I keep talking to my guide about this. And that's on one of the notes of things that we still need to loop back on, because neither one of us has really told the backstory about our guide. Not really. But
yeah,
I'll talk about what I want life to look like. And she always says the same thing. And I think I even said this on the podcast, maybe. But it was, stop worrying about what your life looks like and start worrying about who you are. She's like, I'm fine with you having goals, but they need to be goals about who and what you are and how you're showing up now. And that permeates any circumstance or situation you find yourself in. And if your goals are just in that arena and they're not, I want life to be this circumstance, or I want things to look like this, then, you can pursue those goals and you just have a completely different yardstick of success. And it's the mirror. It's not the thing that you're trying to do and how many people are liking it when you put it on social media, or how much money you have, or how many people or whatever the thing is. None of that stuff matters, because it's not where your goal resides. So what she's really helping me to use is that, just like calibrate the nature of your goals versus, this sentence is falling apart. Let me try again. It's I guess, like, pay attention to what you're striving for and just make sure that they are related to who you are and how you show up, and not what your life looks like. And then if the things that you're striving for have to do with external stuff, then that's good information for you about the work that you need to do on what you're focusing on and what motivates you. I don't even know if that answers the question, because I don't remember the question.
I don't either, honestly.
But, so remember how I said that I was going to make a weekly mailer for all of the people that I want to be sponsors of the podcast?
Yes.
Did you read the most recent one that I put out to them?
I did.
And it was all about what we're talking about, weirdly enough. It was, hey, I had an idea of what I thought sponsorship was going to look like, and surprise, surprise, none of you want to do that. But the one thing that does work is just making a promo code. It's simple. It's kind of non-committal on their end. It's, doable, and it services our audience in a way that's a whole lot better than just saying, hey, this product exists. Go look at it yourself. And so I've kind of like tweaked my whole sponsorship / corporate partnership game around a realization that I had, which is kind of tangentially related to my original goal, but not at all my original goal. And I think I felt better about sending that one out than any of the other issues. I think this was like the 5th issue that I had sent out. And I actually felt good in my body when I hit send on that, because it wasn't like, oh, this isn't working. Like, there was no like admitting defeat. It was more of just like rolling with the punches. The thing I set out to do is not the thing that I think is going to work here. I found another thing that is going to work here. So let's just change direction and then reopen the conversation with this new mindset. Mm-hmm. And it paid off.
Right. So what you're saying, though, is that you had flexibility. You may have had a goal, but then you had the flexibility to just roll with the change.
Right. And that goes back to thinking about where your goal resides. If my goal was to get a very specific sponsorship partner situation set up, and now I find that I have to pivot to a different flavor of partnership, well, then it feels like I'm not meeting my goal. But if my goal is to be a person who is paying attention to life and what it gives you and what it doesn't give you, and, you know, like if all my goals are how I'm showing up as a podcaster and a podcast host and a newsletter mailing person, then no matter what the sponsorship situation looks like, I can still meet that goal, because my goal is to show up as someone who's paying attention and meeting people where they are.
Which I think when you do that, you are aligning with your true self, and then opportunity is going to be presented. It may not be in the way that you think. It may not be when you want it to, but if you stay in line with that, which is our whole point, then eventually that sponsorship is going to be here. And that's, I guess, the kind of the whole point I'm trying to make is when you stay focused on that versus some measurable thing that you are so rigid about, you may lose like this huge gift that is meant to be given to you simply because you are so laser-like focused on perhaps something that's not even in your highest good in the first place.
Right. Or just like something that's attainable. Like, I mean,
that's what I love about the turtle step goal process.
Because you can always take one little step.
Yeah. Well, I choose to find a step that I can do even within 24 hours. Like that attainable.
And then,
because then you're making micro movements.
Right. And that goes back to the goal being a direction instead of a destination.
I love that.
You're welcome.
Needs to be on a bumper sticker.
We should start selling bumper stickers.
We're going to have merch.
We should sell bumpers. And then just like we put the stickers on and you don't know what they are. You just have to put a new bumper
Here's
on
your bumper. Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny.
I was talking on the phone with my brother. And you know how he thinks. You know how his brain is like a computer. Like, you put in a bunch of inputs and he processes it, and then he spits out an Excel spreadsheet. He's like, here's how it all makes sense.
Right.
And
yes.
And so I was talking to him about this, and he was like, you realize that like the sponsorships you're after are the things that companies go for when you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of listeners. And you have like 90. And so I was like, why don't you set a goal toward like something that people would do for a podcast that has 90 listeners? And that's when he was like, don't let go of your goal of getting the type of sponsorships you're after, but that's end game stuff. And so, he just kind of helped me realize how lofty this thing was that I was after, and kind of like gave me a micro version of it. I was like, just give them that and see what happens. And then I did, and then they started saying yes.
Sage advice from your brother.
Always. And it's always things I never thought of. Like, he'll say it, and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that you say it out loud. But like, I'm not dumb. But sometimes he'll just say things so matter of fact, like it's just there, clear as day.
That's one thing I really like about your brother. For those of you that don't know, I also worked with Ryan's brother.
My brother is the reason that I got that job.
Yes.
I love that about him, unless it's happening. Like when we're having
the moment?
Yes, because I can't not feel stupid. Like I know that I'm benefiting from this, and this is all productive, and if I listen to the advice, then my life is going to be better for it. But in the moment, I just feel like the biggest idiot. Because I'm just like, why didn't I think of that?
But why? See, to me, that sounds like a big fat limiting belief.
It is a big fat.
To me, from the outside, I'm thinking that's really, it's wise. It's wise to know that he brings a different perspective, that he sees things differently than you do. And so it's like you're seeking out that information.
Yes.
Because we're not meant to know it all. So
right.
I think you're looking at it the wrong way.
I think the feeling stupid comes from just, I mean, I don't know. My brother and my dad are both savant level genius smart. And I was always like just an on-level kid at best, like a solid B- student. And so I guess growing up in that household, our favorite pastimes were playing chess, solving Rubik's Cubes, really like heady, thinky stuff. And I was always like, I always came in last, But as a kid, he had 2 years on me. And when you're a little kid, 2 years makes a big difference. And,
it does.
So I just like, again, it was context. In that context, I was the stupidest person in the room. No matter how smart I was, they were both a whole lot smarter. And so, again, like, I think specifically when it comes to my brother, I feel a lot of that insecurity around my intelligence because also he is smarter than me. He's just smarter. We will be talking about something and he'll just spit something out that I never would have thought of in a million years. And again, he makes it sound so simple because it is simple to him. And I'm just sitting there bumfuzzled. I don't even know what that word means. I think I meant to say dumbfounded.
Bumfuzzled.
My brother bumfuzzles me all the time.
But I have two things to say to that though. First of all, like you're thinking that way because we're going to call it faulty wiring. Because remember, we've talked about your brain develops from birth to age 25. So if you're growing up and you're wiring your brain as I'm the stupidest one between my dad, my brother, and me.
Yes.
You have neurologically wired your brain. So now anytime you come to this moment where he knows something that you don't know, that's what you default on.
Yep.
So you need to work on that wiring.
Yep.
Second of all, and I always botch this saying, but there's that whole saying of like, you can't see the forest for the trees or whatever. And sometimes it could just be that you are so into it. And Ryan, you go down like these rabbit holes, of thought. And it's sort of like all of a sudden you get into a thought and then it takes you over here and then it sort of pulls you back. And it's almost like you're so into it that you can't remove yourself enough to see what he sees because he's not in the middle of it.
Right.
So I think that's also a big part of it too. And that's why we seek those people out, because it's almost like you're saying to him, look, I am so far into this. What are you seeing? Like, help pull me out of this.
Right. And I have another friend that I do that with a lot more frequently. Just because when you live in Japan, it's hard to sync up and actually have a conversation. But it's the same thing. I'll just say, hey, I'm processing this or I'm working this out. Can I just send all of my thoughts to you and have you just look at the forest for me and just, what are my blind spots? What am I not processing? What are the warning signs? And just kind of like fill out the picture for me. And there's no insecurity there. Okay. Like, there's only gratitude. It's just like, thank you. I love your brain. That's why I'm asking you for this. And it's sometimes some things will come back to me where they're like, this may sound offensive. I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm just calling it like it is. And you have some stuff to work on. And I don't feel attacked in the slightest. I'm like,
do you feel stupid?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I feel like feeling stupid is to me like water is to a fish.
Really?
I mean, I have experiences that would indicate otherwise. Like, I was talking about how my brother will just say something profound, like it's simple and everybody knows it, right? I do that to people too. I get that kind of feedback where I'll just spit something out and someone's like, oh my God, you're incredibly wise. And I get that. And it gets through. But it still doesn't hold as much weight as a whole lifetime of feeling like the stupidest person in the room. You know, I think like for me, being not smart, but less smart. Being less smart is a matter of identity for me. Because it was how I identified during so much of the formative parts of my life. But it's triggered by my brother. It's not triggered by other people. Other people can make me feel stupid, and I'll just be like, okay, teach me stuff. Like, I'm an open book. Let's go. I'm ready. Because I'm hungry for learning and I'm hungry for growth. And when I find people who I can learn from, I love to eat it up. And I go to my brother because I know he's smart. I know he sees what I don't see. And I know that he has my best interests at heart. And he's a really great person to go to for advice. But when it comes to him, I don't know that I'll ever not have that insecurity. Just because, you know, I'm past 25 and I didn't fix it. You know, like it's baked in there.
Yes, true. But there is a way to rewire that.
How do we rewire it?
There's a woman by the name of Byron Katie, Byron, Byron Katie, and she has something called The Work, and it's all about this very principle. You can completely rewire that neuron in your brain so that you aren't triggered by it anymore. It's really interesting, fascinating work. We can do it sometime, but not in this moment because I am a little cloudy today in my own mind.
What is going on? I may not
be of service to you. Oh, see, there you go, throwing it back on me.
That's right.
What's going on with me? I am, to be quite honest with you, I'm angry today. I am angry today. And so that's part of my cloudiness is I'm trying not to sit in that space, in that state. And as I've said before, anger is a blanket for other emotions. So I'm trying to uncover the blanket to figure out what is hiding beneath. So.
Is there anything you want to talk about in front of the whole world? More specifically?
Hello, wide world.
If you don't, that's fine. I can talk about myself for days.
So I'm doing this 21-day stillness challenge. And I needed something for me just to find some grounding in this shelter in place COVID-19 situation that we find ourselves in. We are still in shelter in place, which is why Ryan and I are not meeting in person to record this episode. And so, and I know what strategies work for me. I know what helps me cope, and sitting in stillness and connecting with my breath and getting out of my mind and into my body works. And that's where I usually get my best messages and the best lessons that I need to learn out of any situation. And so I thought, what better way than to kind of keep myself accountable than to invite others to join me in that process. So I started the 21-day stillness challenge, and every day at the same time, we sit in stillness for 5 minutes. And I had a point to all this. Where was I going, Ryan? See, cloudy. So today I specifically talked about the freedoms that I feel like are being taken away because, you know, we can't go out of our house. There's threats that you can get a ticket if you are not staying in place or going to your essential place of business. And where it's really impacted me in 2 ways. Personally, my dad went into the hospital about, I think it's like 3 weeks now, because he thought he was having a stroke because he couldn't get into his doctor. And really it was just he needed a regulation on his meds, but he couldn't get into his doctor. And then, so that landed him in the hospital.
Wow.
And then, because he thought he was having a stroke, which he was not. It was just his meds were doing some really funky things to his heart. And my mother could not be in the hospital with him. And I was incredibly grateful that he did not need an advocate, that he was coherent.
Oh, like she couldn't go back?
She could not.
She had to wait in the waiting room, or could she not go in at all?
She could not go in at all. She took him the first night, and then when they kind of assessed where they'd been and who they'd interacted with and whatnot, she was no longer allowed to come inside the hospital. God. No waiting room, no room, nothing. Could not. And when it was time for him to be discharged, she basically picked him up at the door.
Wow.
And so I came out of that situation just grateful that nothing serious did happen, because what if he needed somebody to advocate for his care? Mm-hmm. Here we are, and a few weeks later, and my mother-in-law walks into the emergency room, and my father-in-law cannot go with her. She walks herself into the emergency room. Chose not to go for a long time because of the fear of this virus. And they immediately wheeled her up to surgery because she had a blockage in her heart, and they needed to put a stent in because she was having a heart attack. And
God.
He could not come in to see her. And so and the whole time she ended up passing away. And he sat on a park bench outside the hospital, getting messages relayed to him from a nurse on the phone. And it's been a week. We had the funeral on Monday, which was a private graveside service because we couldn't do anything else. And, when all this started, these are things that never crossed my mind. The freedoms of just being able to take care of your loved ones and being able to show up and advocate for those that need help. And, And it's, I don't know. I'm right in the middle of this, and I don't know what is going to come out of it. I don't know what lesson I'm supposed to learn. But here, there's another former Y coworker that has a daughter that's very sick, and she is critical, and she's in the children's hospital right now, and only one parent can be in the room at a time. They cannot leave that room for 24 hours. They cannot go anywhere outside of that room. And when it's time to do a shift change with the other parent, they're escorted to the front door. And then the other parent comes up.
God.
So he is sleeping in his car in the parking lot at nighttime in the event that something happens to his daughter. So I am incredibly angry about this. And so I just don't know what to do with it. And so I guess I was hesitant to share, and here I am just spilling it anyway, because I don't have a solution other than what I said today to my tribe that are in the 21 days of stillness, is that this I do have a choice in how I think. And I do realize that I am in mental suffering right now. And I know that the anger is just masking some other great emotion. I know some of it's grief in terms of my mother-in-law. There's just a lot of grief there. Mm-hmm. And that just comes with time. Like, I just have to go through that. I have to process that. So I know part of it is that. And anger and grief sort of go hand in hand, together anyway.
Yeah.
So I know part of it is for her. But there's something about freedom that's just percolating, and I don't know. I'm just kind of just trying to let it come and figure out what it means for me and what I need to say about it. So that's what's going on. So I'm not really I'm in my mind today. That's the problem. I'm in my mind. I am suffering in my mind today. So I'm not really on my best game to come back at you and make you think I feel. Here I am showing up. So thanks for meeting me where I am.
I think you've already made me think your quota for the day.
Yes. It worked.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a heaviness. So I do want to follow up on this. I know there's some insight that's coming, so I think I'm just going to leave it there. Because that's part of this too. It's just, you asked me where I am, and so that's where I am. But there's something else I want to share with you too, because I want your feedback.
Okay.
So we're in this new way of being, right? Where we social distancing, sheltering in place, and for my work, that's been very detrimental. Because being an intuitive person, I do my best work when I'm in your presence, because I can feel you and I can feel your energy, and I don't do that as well through all this technology. It's like it sort of gets scrambled as it comes through the computer and the phone and everything. And like I've had clients that have asked me, can I still meet with you like over the phone or Zoom or whatnot? And I've just continually said no. But then my guides, so we really need to talk about this guide thing, because what my guides are telling me is, the very thing that you dislike doing could be the very best thing for you. And for a while I didn't know what that meant. Because like right now I'm really struggling. I consult for a school district locally here, and I basically have a contract through the end of the year, and I owe them some classes. And what that means is typically they give me the content of what they want me to teach. I formulate a class, I show up, I teach them in person, which I love, and then that's it. Well, of course, school's not in session, and I can't meet with this group of people. So now it's requiring me to all of a sudden have this huge learning curve as far as how am I going to figure out this technology piece? Right. How am I going to get my message across? And I've been having the same challenges with the 21-day stillness program that I've been working on. It's just the technology, and it frustrates me. And it requires me to be on my phone a lot, which you and I have had this conversation offline before, where, as we're talking about engaging with our community more, the thing that I dislike the most is being connected to a device in order to connect.
Right.
And so I have a lot of resistance with it. And I don't like that my son always sees my face in my phone. I don't want to teach him that that's how life is.
Right.
And yet, on the other hand, I'm getting this message from my guides, like the very thing that you dislike is the very thing that you need. And I'm like, finally the other day, I'm like, what does that mean? Just tell me what that means. I don't want to decode this. Just please be more clear. So I was doing my morning ritual, which where I draw cards, I do some writing. That's where I do my own meditation stillness practice. And then I read from a variety of books, Marianne Williamson, some other people. And the message that I got was all about this very thing, about you being so resistant to technology, but maybe technology is the very thing that you're going to need to build your tribe. And so if you just learn to accept that and not be attached to the fact that you don't like it, or it's going to affect your son negatively, or you're not going to know how to do it, or it won't be as good as somebody else, because that's what it is too. It's a lot of things where it's just not going to be clean because I don't know how to do it. It's not going to be as polished because I'm not going to take the time, whatever. Like there's all these thoughts, and it's like, what if you just learn to accept it for what it is, that it's part of your new process. And in all actuality, it's going to build the very thing that you're trying to build. When we're talking about goals and what you want your life to be, it did not involve technology.
Right.
So I'm like pushing up against like offering online webinars and building this online community. And I'm like, And then I'm getting all this evidence from this 21-day stillness challenge that it's clearly working. Like I don't have to be in your personal space for you to get to this vibrational level. So I'm like, damn it. So anyway, one piece of me, like literally one day I was like, I'm done working. I'm done working. Like I'm not going to do anything online. I felt very defeated. Like I'm not going to do webinars. I'm not going to try to figure this out until we can quote unquote go back to normal, which there is no going back.
Right.
But where I can at least be with people again, I'm not going to work. But then I turn around and I think of like when that happens, the first thought that comes to me is the thought that I've had before where it's like, Abby, you're not reaching enough people. Like that's what that was followed. When I say I'm going to quit working because I don't want to do the technology piece, the first thought that comes to mind, but you've had the thought, Abby, you're not reaching enough people. So what does that mean? So I want your feedback. Not an answer, but your feedback.
So
do you have any?
Couple things went through my brains when you were saying that. 76,000 people wasn't enough. Have you heard that sentence before?
No.
This is so crazy. I'm on a website about a person who, well, let me just read it. The reason I created this company and decided to sell what I sell on a large scale online using technology boils down to a number, 76,000. That's how many people I calculated I could feasibly help one-on-one before I die. And that's without vacations. Not enough. The transformations I saw in my clients just a month into using these were so mind-blowing that I thought everyone in the world needs to know about this. And so she started the website. The online storefront, the thing that she's doing now to get her products out into the rest of the world. Do you know what I'm talking about yet?
Yes, I do. I have heard that before. I think I just read it recently. But again, cloudy.
Right. I mean, what we're doing is we're using... That's perfect. That's perfect timing. My 45-minute timer just went off. So it's time to talk about this anyway. But we're doing a lot of things to help a lot of people in a lot of meaningful ways. And they are all built on a technological platform. Mm-hmm. You know, we sat there in a coffee shop and you were like, I want to do a podcast, but I don't know technology. And I was like, I know technology. Yeah. And then now we're doing a podcast because of that crucial component. Mm-hmm. And then we're doing a bunch of other things that we're about to start talking about for our community, for our listeners, for our audience, for our tribe. And they are all dependent on technological interfacing. Not just like it's a thing that we can do on the side to make it a better experience. No, these things wouldn't happen without these technological platforms. Mm-hmm. And so... it's almost as though
I think it goes back to the point I was trying to make about your situation. I think I'm looking at it the wrong way. I'm seeing it for a negative instead of as a positive, as a tool to reach a larger group of people.
Right. Well, I mean, that was the very first thing I thought. Especially when you were talking about your son and what it would mean for him to see you using your phone. And I had a conversation with someone who's a little bit farther down the road than I am. He's got a kid who's going to college this year. He was like, look, dude, that's the world that he's going to live in. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not really worried. Well, I'm still worried. I'm not as worried as I was about my kid being on a screen or a tablet or something. And it's just about like being intentional about what is he doing with it. You know, it's a tool. He can use it to fry his brains and check out, or he can use it to engage. So he's on his little phone, but he's FaceTiming with my mom instead of just like watching a show or something. Mm-hmm. And so I think if you just see, instead of like blanketing a collection of tools as quote unquote technology and then having a feeling about technology, just kind of like take that blanket label off and just see them as a series of tools, just like any other tool in your life, to do the thing that you're trying to do. Because otherwise you're only going to reach 76,000 people.
Yes, and that's not enough.
That's not enough.
Speaking of...
we're talking about Lotus Way.
Yes, we are.
I am so excited about this.
Me too. And look what I have sitting right next to me.
Oh,
One
look
of
at
her.
this.
Sweet. Yay.
Which one do you have?
This one is Infinite Love, because the others are actually stuck in my office, which I cannot get into right now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This one is Quiet Mind, and I chose the. Actually, I didn't choose this one. The website chose for me. When you go to Lotus Way,
you did the test?
Yes, it's Lotus Way.
Ah.
Lotus WEI, not WAY. But you go lotusway.com, and on the very top, there's a little quiz you can take that like. It's pretty interesting because it's all just pictures of flowers, and you just you don't think, you just click on whichever one stands out to you the most, and then it gives you a little readout. And it was I don't know why it was surprising. These things are always accurate, but it was really accurate, and so I recommended Quiet Mind, which boosts clarity, relaxation, and sound sleep, which are all things I have been lacking a lot of.
Okay.
So yeah, I've got my little
Mine
mist.
is Infinite Love, which is for loving kindness, magnetism, and self-expression. And as you've heard me say in the past, I have a hard time speaking my truth. So that's why I've been really working with this one. But let me give you the backstory, and then you can give them the exciting news.
Yes.
So I was introduced to the Lotus Way products back in 2009, I believe it was. I was at...
That's 11 years ago.
I know, an art workshop up in New Hampshire. And I was taking a photography workshop on... It was really cool, about basically pulling somebody's essence out by doing portraits. Not just logistics, but actually taking a picture of their essence. And the photographer had all these sprays, and she had a few cards there, and it was like, pick a flower, same thing that you're talking about, and then spray one of these. And we sort of did these before after photos. So we'd before we chose all these flowers and these sprays, we took a picture, and then we you picked your flower that was best for you. Sort of again, it picked it for you, and then you put the spray on, and then you took another picture. The differences blew my mind. Blew my mind. I was like, wow. I looked so different. I'm gonna have to see if I can dig those pictures
I need to
up.
see these.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, I have got to know more about this. So I went home and I researched Lotus Way and found out Katie Hess is a flower alchemist. Freaking amazing job.
That's such a cool job title.
Yes, I know. I am a flower alchemist. And basically studies these flowers from all over the world and pulls out the oils and turns them into elixirs, aura mists. She keeps building her product line into a variety of things. That's where these flower deck cards come from. These are Katie's. But here's where I really noticed a difference. And it was for my wedding. So I got married in 2014. Christy and I have been together. We've been together almost, 14 years now. But, we weren't always allowed to get married. So we didn't get married till 2014. And during that time, our family was going through some really heavy and challenging stuff with her side of the family and the family business. And just, we were incredibly in a bad place. I got to hurry because I know we're trying to wrap this up. But anyway, I could see it in my face. My skin was dull because my aura was dull. I was that in the muck and that much negativity. And I didn't want to be that way for my wedding. So she had one. It's the orange one. Of course, I'm going to forget what it's called now. Something energy.
It's okay to be cloudy today.
Oh, man. So I got the spray and the elixir, but it was basically cleansing your energy of everybody else's energy. And
really?
Yes.
I need to look this up.
Dang it.
For reasons.
Oh, okay. So
I'm looking at her product.
Looking it up because something. Why can I not remember this? So for about 6 weeks before my wedding, I started using the elixir. It's like an oil, so I would put it on my acupuncture
was
points.
It the spray or the oil?
No, I did both. I did the aura mist and then I did the elixir, and the elixir is like an oil, and I would put it on my the different meridians in my body, like the acupuncture points. And then I would do the spray on my face. So the sprays, you typically just do this. And did it for 6 weeks before my wedding because I just needed all that energy cleared. It was a time of joy and a time of happiness, and I wanted to be in that state of mind.
Was it radiant energy?
No. But I know she's changed some of the names, so it might be...
It's orange.
Yeah, so then that's it. That's the current name. And it was amazing. Like, I need to show you the pictures of me in my wedding. Like, you could... My face is, like, amazingly clear. Like, energetically. I'm not just saying, like, I look beautiful. I thought I looked good that day. But what I mean is, I am... My energy, it's just amazingly clear. And so I am a true believer of the Lotus Way products. I use them. I believe it works.
That is insane. Dissolves fatigue after computer and cell phone use or air travel, overstimulation, taking on other stress, feeling invisible, weak immune system. I'm glad that you told me about this. So, the reason we're talking about them so much is because they are our very, 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 very first ever True North podcast sponsor.
I'm so excited about. I'm so excited.
What that means for you, our audience, is that if you go to lotusway.com, store-wide, I believe it's store-wide, you can use promo code Abby and Ryan to get 15 whopping % off of your entire order. That's Abby and Ryan, ABBYANDRYAN. And we were originally going to do True North, but there are like 1,000. I think there are literally 1,000 True Norths out there. So I actually changed the name of our podcast in the system to True North with Abby and Ryan. So if you go to anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you search True North, we're going to be in the mix. But if you search Abby and Ryan, you will only find us. So that's the promo code. Abby and Ryan, 15% off everything in the Lotus Way store.
Yes. And thank you, Katie and her team. And
she's super sweet.
Yes, she is.
She was just a joy to swap these emails with. It was great. And Katie, if you are listening, this Quiet Mind really, really works. I can tell the days that I don't use it.
Yes, I know.
And so my 2-year-old saw me do this one day, and he just stared at me because it was like he's kind of gotten his mind around what his experience is like. So now when he experiences something new, he recognizes that it's new because there are some things that are not new. And so he saw me spray my face, and he just kind of like tilted his head like a dog. And he asked me what it was, and I was like, it's flowers. And he goes, flowers. And I said, do you want some? He goes, yeah, flower face. So he like closed his eyes and stuck his little face out at me. And so I sprayed it. So anytime he sees the bottle, he goes, Daddy, flower face, flower face. And I'm like, yep, I will flower your face all day long.
Yes, that's exactly what Patrick does. When I spray, he literally, I don't even have to tell him. He knows if I'm doing it, he'll come running. So I love it. We're raising our kids right.
That's right. And they're also on their phones. So. Yeah. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, but there is something I want to talk about because I don't want to wait another week. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk about it?
You go for it, because I did Lotus Way.
That's true. Okay, so because I know that using technology is your absolute favorite thing to do, what we've done is we've created a huge suite of things that are all accessible through your e-devices. First of all is I have so much fun doing the mailer to my sponsors, the True North Tuesdays, that I want to do one for our audience as well. So it'll be Tuesday. It'll still be called True North Tuesdays, but it'll be to the listeners instead of the people that I want to pay us for this. We don't have a way to subscribe because we don't have a website yet, and we won't have a website for another 54 days because of the way domains work and registering and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to subscribe to the True North Tuesday, just send us an email to truenorthpodcast11@gmail.com, and whatever email address you use to email us, I'll just manually add it to the list. It's going to be reflections on things where we unpack different, like we have a shared Google Doc that's got a ton of shit that I'm going to put in there. And so it's like anything we talk about in the podcast that we want to unpack more, things that we didn't have time to get to, our own personal reflections from our lives, a lot of animated GIFs, probably some profanity. It's just a fun little kind of like anything goes newsletter thing just to stay connected and give people a little bit more of what they get here. Second is having a marketing background. One thing I couldn't shake was the idea that once you have sponsors, your audience becomes the product. One of the ways that I kind of like got around that ethically within my own moral system is to actually create, I say I like you weren't involved. We talked together. That was my concern that started a conversation that led to us starting a Patreon page so that you, the audience, can actually pay into the thing that you are receiving, and we don't have a third party kind of like bankrolling the whole thing that we're also answering to. So it's just patreon.com/True North, and we only have 2 tiers. There's a $5 and a $10 a month, and I wanted them to be smaller, but I also figured out that anything less than $5, the money doesn't actually go to us. You're basically just paying for Patreon to exist. So the $5 one is basically just more content. We have those conversations on Voxer throughout the week where we kind of like brainstorm and share our lives and stories and concerns and things like that. And so I figured out how to turn those into a recording. So every week you're going to get another kind of like quote unquote podcast that's even more raw and unfiltered than this, because it'll sound like a phone conversation, like we're in our cars or whatever. And it's just more of like it's like a behind the scenes extra content type of thing that's going to be released to our $5 tier every week. Just whatever we end up talking about, however much time that takes. And then the other thing you're going to get is each of us are going to record a meditation once a month. I don't really know what it's going to be about. Probably just whatever we're led to do. It may have to do with the podcast. It may have to do with nothing at all. So for $5 a month, you're going to get more of us talking, and then also a meditation from each of us every month. The $10 tier is really the good stuff. You're actually going to interact in a big way. We have created a private Facebook group that you'll have access to, where you engage with us directly and contribute to future episodes. We're going to put out a call and be like, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? To get like real actual feedback from the people who are actually listening and involved and invested in what we're doing. And then we'll also have a live call every single week over Zoom to talk about whatever. I think that's going to be on Tuesday nights. And then we're also talking about having live events. We've already talked about doing a roadshow. We're talking about doing workshops or trainings or things like that. So if you're a $10 subscriber, you get early ticket access to those things. But just to get people in the door, just to get people on those calls or in that Facebook group for the next, what do you want to do? 1 week, 2 weeks? How long do we want to do this for? We originally said 1 week. You think that's enough time?
Let's do 2.
2. Most of our listeners happen in the first week, but we don't want to be mean to the stragglers. So for the next 2 weeks, so what's today? Today's the 16th. So just pretend I did some math and figured out when 2 weeks from now is. And
this is launching tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Friday, the 17th. So actually, this is the 17th. We're in the future. We have a special tier. It's like an entry-level founding member thing where you get all of the $10 benefits locked in for life for $5 a month.
At the end of the 2 weeks. May 1st.
Yes. Then, so starting May 1st, you have to pay $10 to get all those things. But before then, you only have to pay $5. And that's for life. That's like locked in.
Grandfathered in.
Yes. I'm going to say grandmothered in because I'm progressive like that. Did I talk about everything? We talked about the Facebook group. We talked about the Patreon. We talked about the weekly calls and monthly meditations. Interact with us, contribute to the podcast. I'm going through a list now. True North Tuesdays. Subscribe by emailing us until we have the form on our list. We talked about Lotus Way. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It is.
We're doing a lot.
Yes.
But we hope to see you guys participate.
Biggest thing, if you don't remember any of that, just email us, truenorthpodcast11@gmail.com, and say you want more information.
Yes.
And the first newsletter will have all of this stuff listed out for you.
Yes.
Or we'll send out an email, something. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out. We're figuring it out as we go. Again, this whole thing is and will probably always be a work in progress.
Yes, definitely.
Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Abby.
That's it.
Goodbye.